Good morning, humanimals and others. Wanted to just quickly note a few things that I notice as recurring themes. Sorry, my doggy. With regards to, Lucy Letby's story, the situation that she's in now, the situation surrounding the entire case and to do with the Countess of Chester Hospital, and a little bit into Lucy's history. I think it's perfectly normal for people to think either, or to believe, Lucy is guilty or Lucy is innocent. And I think it's also normal that there might be people that feel a little bit in between and are really unsure what to think. What I'm seeing is, particularly with people who believe in Lucy's innocence, is a real religiosity around that and not really much layered thinking. It's like that when you can idealize somebody, or you imagine what you think someone is like, then you meet them and it's like, oh, this is a totally different vibe altogether, because you've fantasized in your head. And I think it's quite a human thing to do, is to fill in a lot of blanks, and to fill blanks in using constructs that suit you and make you feel the best and please you and fit your ideas and fit the feelings that you want to have. And I see that this seems to happen quite a lot around Lucy Letby, and it should concern people, because you don't need to canonise someone. I know she isn't, she is alive, but you don't need to canonise someone to support something. It could be whether because it's a political activism role for you. It could be because, you just have sensitivities around certain things, that your own sense of what you think is fair, whether you've got ideas about the NHS, whatever it is, right? People come on and catch these waves for all sorts of reasons, but the religiosity it's just peaking, and everything is coloured, through these, idealistic spectacles when it comes to Lucy Letby, her character, who she is, and what we do know and what we can actually say. It doesn't, and anything negative about Lucy Letby, it doesn't mean that that's not why she's, that's not why you should believe that she can murder babies. That's not what this means. The excuses about, Dr. A is pursuing Lucy Letby and she's young and naive, and he's just really being a bit of a bother. Quite often, in the massive amount of contact between them, this is just in texts, let alone phone calls and texting into the night. A young girl who doesn't really want romantic affection from someone, even in a fantasy where there's, it's just, hey, we're just having, this is a flirtation, we're not going to take further or something. We're just fulfilling needs its escapism, whatever it is. You know, a young girl, if you don't feel that attraction, you get rather creeped out. You're definitely, even if it's your habit to put kisses, which it was for Lucy, she would send them to her occupational health service contact, and seemingly to many people, but you do not put love hearts and crosses, X's, you know, if you're not enjoying attention in some way, if you're wanting to put a professional distance, if you're wanting to draw some sort of line. And that definitely wasn't happening, but, you know, we have people clearly unable to even discuss properly that, no, this was a two-way street for Lucy and Dr. A. They were acting in a manner that suggests at least an emotional affair. Now, of course, these things are going to happen in a lot of workplaces beyond just, oh, you know, my work husband, work wifey, you know, that sort of thing. And I think especially in places where there's a lot of tenseness, and I think, you know, hospitals are definitely hotbeds, so to speak, of passionate affairs and complicated relationships, sexual pressure, also, yes, politics of sexual advances and rejection and things like that, yes, certainly. But these entanglements, you know, this entanglement, you could say, with Lucy and Dr. A, it was a two-way street. It's very clearly a two-way street. Whether Lucy would actually have wanted to take things physically, we don't know if they did. Doesn't matter what she told her friends, she's not necessarily going to tell them or own up to it. And it was very clear that Lucy did instigate the contact first off. She would start off conversations. She would start off conversations by saying, will we be seeing you today in the ward? You know, she would invite that contact first, and she didn't give those signs of, you know, this is really making me uncomfortable. I want to pull this back into just something more professional. No, so just drop that as a talking point, because it's not right, and it undermines people's position when they are just, so if this, then this and this, you know. Life is black, sometimes black and white, but it's grey, okay? Life is grey. You're disingenuous not to accept that and state that. You know it about your own lives, no matter who you are. Also, it's the, you know, the dismissiveness around things that are a principle, okay? It's the dismissiveness around the incident. So I've seen this on numerous occasions as well, where it's like they're actually dissing Yvonne Farmer's, is it Yvonne Farmer? Her professional views as well. And just, no, look, it wasn't a big deal. That morphine, it happens all the time. Giving 10 doses, it was because it was such micro dosing. It was just such micro amounts that it didn't matter anyway. That's not the point. The point is that, yes, mistakes are made, right? And they need to be owned up to as, okay, yeah, this is serious. This is what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to review some modules. I'm going to ensure that I am concentrating on reading instructions. I'm not going to mistake, you know, 0.001 for 0.1, for example, or, you know. And and I will rectify the situation, because I acknowledge that if this was about something else, maybe that could have been lethal. It's the fact that it happened. You know, you're not going to say, oh, well, never mind, no harm, no foul. It's not, that's not the situation. Phew, what a relief, a baby didn't die, you know. And then it's the behavior pattern of diminishing what happened, even though that is serious. It should be something that you, in principle, you want to look at your processes, your procedures, accept that, where was this fault? Where was this fault? What, you know, there can be reasons which can sound like excuses, with the rush of a hospital, understaffing, you know, maybe notes that aren't clear or aren't, you know, if you're not certain, don't perform it. You know, how do you give antibiotics to a baby when it's not even on the chart? What's the explanation there? You looked at someone else's chart, another baby's chart, and then went over to another baby and done it. So performed that. So it actually shouldn't be diminished. It needs, everything's, oh, flocky knocky, you know, it's just written off, diminished, excuses, when the pattern of behavior, you know, who knows? Hey, what are you learning there? What have you been learning your whole life? You know, when she's kind of says, no, sorry, I'm not going to accept that. I should be able to administer these particular type of pharmaceuticals, and I don't accept being stood down, and I'm going to take this further, and rah, rah, rah. So, you know, a week later, I think she's back being able to do these things. So, you know, it really, having humility to respect your profession and actually go through the phases of not necessarily contrition, you know, but of development, learning, getting better, fixing, you know. It doesn't mean that it should be a black mark against Lucy, except that the way that it was handled, and Yvonne, or Yvette is it, she said, no, this was actually a serious issue. It did require, it required being handled, you know, through certain channels. And this was one of several things throughout Lucy's career where things have been pointed out that she just hasn't liked, you know, her lack of bedside manner, her lack of empathy, and she's learned that she can just push back. She'll get the support of her father, John. I mean, you know, John's in a meeting reading out a statement on her behalf when she's 26 years old. Now, supportive parents of one thing. I think Lucy enjoyed it when it was useful, but she called it suffocating. She didn't call it supportive. She said she was suffocated. She didn't have a way to express what she really wanted in life, to move to New Zealand, to even be a little bit away from her parents, to have separate holidays. You know, I think that's her choice. She's still going on holidays with her parents. I think that's rather sweet in a way, you know, and by all means, this is not about having a close relationship with your parents. It's about having a dysfunctional, unhealthy relationship with your parents, and how it affects a child's psyche moving into adulthood, and what the expectations are around performance, and how to deal with things as they arise. And that morphine, issuing morphine at 10 times the dose, just because the initial dose was going to be so tiny and the 10 times was all right, that's just luck. That is just luck, and it should be seen as something serious, to be, you know, to understand that it's not the fact that, oh, that was just lucky, so you don't need to worry about it. It's to realize that you do need to wind back and consider, you know, maybe it was an opportunity to say, yeah, you know, we are understaffed. This should be dealt with, or whatever the reason was, whatever her excuse was, how she managed to do that wrongly. It should have been, if there were other variables other than Lucy Letby reading it wrong, or, you know, deciding just to try it out, you know, who knows, was she experimenting and seeing how you get around these things in a busy hospital? You just stand up, you know, you don't back down, or I don't know, because she repeated that pattern quite a few times. And regardless of whether these things have built up to the point where someone is, you know, this person is harming babies and they are dying or not, it's patterns of behavior that you should just be honest about and accept as that is a personality. There's something in her personality being exhibited there that isn't quite expected. And same with, yes, sure, she would have felt, I can understand she felt betrayed by Dr. A, who she thought had her back. She thought she had his back because she thought she had him around her fingers, okay? And it turned out that she didn't mean all that much. Or that maybe he had had a change of heart because he could really see things. Maybe he'd been feeling uneasy for some time. Who knows? Maybe he's just a stupid man thinking with his little man. And he was doing something quite thoughtlessly. But, you know, they went together to London. They were in positions that weren't respectful to his wife and family. They're both culpable in that regard. That doesn't, you know, it doesn't take away, I guess, overall from someone's, I think it shows character or lack of, but that's just a personal judgment about those things, right? And people do sometimes get caught up in things that they never would guess that they would be, that they think this is not really who I am, or it's not who I want to be, okay? But it did go on for quite some time. It wasn't just a few weeks of flirtation. I believe it was months, because he arrived in the hospital sometime in 2015, and they were in contact for this, yeah, I think it was for a period of a year, in ways that just, yeah, pretty inappropriate, really. So writing her off as, oh, she's so naive, and no, Lucy is not naive at all. She isn't naive at all. I mean, sometimes, yes, she would show emotion, but sometimes she just, either she's just struggles with empathy, or she was literally being quite cruel. And you can't ignore those things. Even, it doesn't matter, your argument about her innocence, it doesn't mean that you have to defend every aspect of Lucy Letby. And I think it's because people don't want to let in those feelings. It's very important to them that she was entirely genuine, sweet, perfect, basically, okay? And that just shows that there's something not going on right if you're going to talk about someone as if they're perfect. There's something else going on, right? And I think people just get inflamed and engulfed with causes and things, and they don't take a step back. You know, sure, you might want to make sure that justice doesn't degrade in the UK to this degree, and that the right people are held accountable, and that things can be fixed, you know. So that's one thing. That's something that's, you know, and yeah, and now, you know, Lucy's a good figurehead for that or whatever, but it doesn't mean she's perfect, and that she wasn't acting in a way that was she knows he's married. She knows she's taking up a lot of his time. She knows she's showing a lot of affection. She is talking to him inappropriately. Sure, you know, people, oh no, but they need to speak to people that are in the same, that understand what they're going through. She had many nurse friends. She could do that. I'm sure there were a lot of services available, even in the broken NHS, to nurses to go through debriefing sessions, counselling. And, you know, in fact, there were. And even if DeBega said nobody else, no one other than Lucy, ever came and said, what's the anniversary of, you know, the death of a baby, and I'm really struggling. It wasn't the things that they came and talked about when they needed counselling, but Lucy did. Now, people will say that's empathetic, but I say that is because they're at the forefront of her mind for a very particular reason. And, you know, people under pressure dial things back. The first statement from DeBega was that it was on several occasions about several babies, and then she sort of, oh, well, you know, oh, there was one occasion where, and that was much later, you know. So I think, oh, gosh, you know, when do you put yourself on the line? You know, don't bow to pressure. Don't bow to pressure. If your employer is saying, don't you dare speak up, you go, oh, well, that'll make me even more speak up. And try and sack me for it, you know, because I'll be taking you to court. I'm sorry, but, you know, people need to have principles. And if their career tops dead babies, yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, self-preservation, everyone's struggling. They've got to make a living. They've got to, you know, things are difficult in this modern era, and things are competitive. We know the hospital environment is extremely competitive. A lot of backstabbing, a lot of yeah, a lot of jostling for pole position and things like that, and a lot of negativity happens, a lot of terrible things happen because of it. It's not a pleasant environment, and it's probably an environment where not a lot of people are in it for the long haul maybe, and they do segue into other things or leave and go into other lines of work because of that pressure. And there's a few industries that are like that, and the burnout is absolutely dreadful. You know, like the teaching profession these days, you know, it's just shocking, the violence that teachers are exposed to daily. But also likewise, you know, we have to balance that out. There is a drop in the, hello my gorgeous, there is a drop in the qualities of a lot of what's on offer to students as well, and a lot of people with agendas in teaching as well, because they want to manipulate minds. And people choose professions where there are vulnerable people if they are sadists, if they are bullies, psychopaths, predators, you know. So there's a lot of industries that, you know, it's easier for some people to operate with their quiet agendas. But yeah, it's just, you know, come on, be balanced. Be balanced. You don't need to have to just skew everything into a positive note and make excuses for every single thing that has happened, building up to the position that Lucy Letby has found herself in. Because then, you know, you are like Judith Moritz or whatever. Oh, yuck, you know. I'm not chasing after every person because I think, oh, they've got, you know, a viewpoint that I want to get behind. No, I'm my own person. I'm in my own lane. I don't give a flying. There's plenty of people that are, you know, quietly or not quietly, believing that Lucy Letby, no, she ain't right, and she's where she needs to be, and not all enjoyable people at all, and they don't all make reasonable arguments. And you know, I find a lot of the kickback I've been getting here, people just say any old gobshite because they know that that's the power of it, putting it in there, just like, you know, and they don't care that it's fact, or if that maybe they're delusional, maybe they are misguided and they've been misinformed, because, you know, misinformation is rife and it's insidious and it's done on purpose so that people will go out and be the capital R repeaters, right? But they'll say, well, that's just a newspaper headline. No, it was actually said in court as testimony that Lucy did say, trust me, I'm a nurse. It's not just a newspaper headline, or it's, but you know, that baby was coming off ventilation anyway. No, the photo was actually taken days before the Mother's Day of the card that was given, and the baby is clearly in agony. You know, baby's tubes are easily dislodged. Yeah, they are easily. Yeah, okay, but it's, we'll find out about the thorough inquiry. Okay, sure, it might be a bit of a bunk, you know, but we'll have to see. Okay, I haven't seen how they crunch these numbers, but on 1% of the shifts of nurses other than Lucy Letby, baby's tubes would be dislodged. On 40% of Lucy's shifts, it would happen. You know, that's not an insignificant thing. And it shows sort of, you know, it could show this building pattern of just chipping away at the safety for these babies. Who knows? And seeing how it's actually either not noticed at the time, easily pushed aside by Lucy, easily kicked back on, you know. And these people, they because they see so black and whitely, they think that you do too, and they think that you believe quite a lot of things that they wouldn't even like to take the time to find out what you think about, you know. And that's very frustrating as well. Anyway, I don't want this to go on too long. I don't really have much more to say. It's just that concept of the religiosity, the black and white thinking, the bullying attacks, purposefully taking anything they see, or you might say out of context, or misquoting you or misunderstanding you on purpose. This is trolling behavior. It's cyberbullying. And you know, these people we know, narcissists, sadists, Machiavellian, all sorts of damaged personalities that actually literally have no cure.